Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Right, so Christmas Eve, and let's go through some Crybaby. So I'll kind of look at it more in terms of live versions. The record's got two or three sort of guitars, and it's better to break those down kind of separately, and just sort of at the moment just look at what we can do, you know, as one guitarist. So we're in the key of E, and just to give us sort of something to like think about as we're playing this riff, you know, the bass will be doing something like you know, so in the key of E, so I'm just doing the second fret on the D, open D, and then 4 3 2 on the A, then 4 on the A, then open D, first fret D, and second fret D, back to the E note. And as you kind of see, that kind of sort of follows the idea of what the riff does anyway. So with that in mind, so we, you know, just to so the guitar riff. So using my second and third fingers there, we're up at the ninth on the third and second on the G and the B, and the open high E. That's basically, you know, like just a little sort of broken down sort of E major. And our kind of destination, you know, we're kind of, it's sounding like a ball, so going between two ends of like a chord, you know, we're ending down at this position, more like in E7, so I'm on the 4th fret of the G, 3rd on the B, and open E again. So we're kind of going from, well, you know, obviously some steps in between. So look at this first shape, and they're the two sort of shapes we'll use for this riff. So move that down 2 frets, so now we're on the 7th fret of the G and the B, and open high E. And then, now what looks kind of like, you know, almost like a sort of partial A, but it's just this E7 shape now just moved up 2 frets, so I'm on the 6th on the G and 5th on the B with the open E. And our kind of destination, like I say, this 4th fret on the G, 3rd on the B. But of course, as we descend, we use like this passing, you know, this sort of fret here, pass down as we reach the sort of like the lower destination, and as we ascend, we don't use the passing sort of notes here. We use them as we're going back to the sort of the beginning of the phrase. So, like I say, starting at the 9th on the G and the B, and open E. And often he'll slide in Brian sort of from maybe 1 fret below, you know, at the 8th fret. Sort of follow that through, and then with a down, and then with an up to catch the kind of open high E. So then we're shifting down to the 7th fret on the G and the B, open high E. Now switching over to this shape, 6 on the G, 5th on the B. And now we do this passing kind of, you know, passing notes to reach the sort of lower destination. As we ascend, we don't need the passing notes here, so we just move back to this kind of 5th and 6th fret shape. Back to the 7th on the G and B. And this time we'll do the passing sort of notes here to reach the kind of the higher destination, so they're on the 8th of the G and the B. And it's like how we start anyway, sort of this shift, you know, a semitone below. You know, that kind of repeats. So now there's a few even ways to sort of look at this. you've probably heard some live versions where Brian, he'll start to mute a little more. So how we're doing the riff here is it's not muted that much. But if we begin to mute that a little, we kind of get that kind of little bobbling with the sort of delay. Doing the same kind of picking down and up. But then I might start, because Brian will start to do, he'll kind of lift the fingers. Messing that up, sorry. And as you can see, it then starts to turn into this kind of little triplety thing, and even then using our left hand to kind of pull off a little more. So I'm just pulling off to the open string quite lightly. We don't want like this big sort of sync being smashed apart sound, but just enough that it's muted. So like I said, the record has a few more guitars and this kind of intro into like the singing riff, these kind of pull-offs. There's, two guitars doing sort of slightly different things. Live though, Brian often, pretty much all the time uses there's kind of two possibilities. So in relation to the riff, first of all, those pull-offs, the typical 3-2 open string on the first string. On the E, same on the B. And sometimes on the D. It depends sort of where I'm at, how I'm playing it, whether I use my first and second fingers or my third and second. Or sometimes because I broke this finger, my third, so sometimes it kind of clicks, so I can't really do these pull-offs properly with my third. And I was never too tight, never too heavy with these. So sometimes we'll just do 3 strings and sometimes 4. So that'll depend on, so for example, if we play the riff, if we go to the, we then play the sort of open high E string as a kind of little lead into the pull-offs. And then to our kind of verse and the kind of things we'll do over the E chord. So so we go down to this final position. But another thing Brian will do sort of equally as much will be sort of stopping at the sort of passing sort of notes. And do 4 strings. Or I might even mix those up in a song. So you can kind of, watch live and try to pay attention for that. Look whether he's sort of finishing here in the passing notes and doing the kind of extended pull-offs, 4 strings, or sort of reaching the lower destination and just doing 3. So that's more or less like the intro. So look for some live versions also to look out for that. Now, sort of in the verse now, we're just, the first part over, just basically our kind of, E sort of, major kind of vamp. Open low E, second fret on the A, and sometimes fourth fret on the A. Kind of doing a down, up, with the second fret. Put my third finger down on the fourth for this down, and then up for the fourth part. So that's if we decide, just to. And sometimes, of course, because of this little bow, we'll catch this E note on the fourth, on the D string anyway. But then Brian might opt to, as we'll see now with some little variations, maybe do a little bit of a, kind of bend, small kind of bend on this third fret on the low E. As we do that bend, we'll often come back with an upstroke, maybe on the D, second fret of the D, second fret of the B. And as you hear in the record, we'll sometimes even go to the E chord, and he'll do this live too, sometimes. These kind of accented upstrokes. I don't really, you kind of do like this up, kind of mutes it, and again, and this kind of second one rings a little more. That's kind of one version. If we kind of take that idea of this little, as we're not strumming exactly, but we're not playing like, sort of like just stationary, static, individual single notes. It's got this, So with that kind of idea, first of all, let's take something like, that we're going to sort of think in terms of that. Oh yeah, maybe that. So we'll do which is kind of, a single note's just kind of like that. So I'm doing up and low E, fourth fret E, second fret A, and fourth fret A. Same again, up and low E, fourth fret, and then something like that, 3, 4 again. With that, maybe with an opening in between. Like I say, it's strange to sort of just play those individually because it comes from this kind of, rhythm. And he'll kind of just play it like that. And maybe that's kind of the first half of, the verse. So and then I'd start that again. And then this time, we'll kind of do that to kind of follow the melody of the vocal a little. Or in fact, as we get, there's also like he doesn't really do this live, I saw him much, but as I get to that note, we'll do this kind of power chordish shape because we're going to move up to this A. So, see a verse, a complete verse then. So as we get to the A, he'll often obviously do some finger picking, but I'd like to break those down, maybe a bit more specific in a different lesson. And so as we reach this A, I just get a little bit of a strum through and pick first, second and third strings. Move up to the B. Bit of a different order pick. Sometimes jump in between strings a little bit. It's kind of like, again, a little bit of a strum and then maybe the third string first and second. And a little bit of a different rhythm, that, you know, these notes on the A coming sooner. Maybe a C sharp minor, or my C sharp minor 7. Down to this C7, but we'll often use our little finger to play a note on the 10th fret of the high E. So let's see. Pick it, take it off, and just play around with those notes. And then go into like an F sharp minor, but really just going to slide into the kind of the 6th string and the 5th string, you know, the 2nd fret and the 4th fret. And then do this walk up. So then 4th fret on the low E, 5th fret on the low E, and then 1st fret on the A. And Brian will do this with his 2nd finger into the 2nd fret of the A, because that's we're going leading to our B7. So as we get to the 2nd fret of the A, we'll put our other 2 fingers down. 1st fret on the D, 3rd fret on the G, and just reach the. And he seems to use his 2nd finger for that 1st fret. I think just because if you use your 1st finger, you've got to just jump more as you do that B7. But your finger, if you do it with the 2nd finger, your kind of fingers are ready and free. So now another thing, there's got that A, then the B. You'll sometimes play the C sharp minor here, just a regular. If you imagine then a C7 here, the 3rd fret on the A, 5th on the D, and because of that bar, we've got the 3rd fret on the G, and 5th fret on the E, and then because of the bar, the 3rd fret on the high E. But rather than that, he'll play it with his little finger off, and his 1st finger also, playing the 3rd fret on the low E. You've got to pay attention because it looks like we're in a kind of a G, like minor 7, but we're not, because our 3rd finger, you know, is playing like we're playing something from a C chord. But we will then move our 3rd finger down, so it's now on the 5th fret of the A string, and play that and slide down a fret into that F sharp minor again. So it seems if you play he'll kind of do that version, sliding sort of into it up. But if he plays he'll then do the more sort of down version, and but it still ends the same. So let's see what we got there. Yeah, another thing I've heard him do live, sorry, I should have mentioned at the start, where we got this, where we slide in from the 8th on the 7th, on the 3rd and 2nd strings. You could bend those. I've heard him do that sometimes. Got to be careful though that you don't then play them fretted as it comes down. That's only when we ascend. We've got to move down to the 7th then. Then I think through habit I did use my first finger there. You can choose. I try, it's a good practice. If it's good enough for Brian, it's good enough for us. So, and then obviously back into the riff. And then, like I said, choose depending where you end that riff. So you can do the 4 strings as pull-offs or the 3. And then we're into our second verse, which we'll just do the same as the first. So in the next one we'll look at the bridge, and from the sort of third on, some more details from like how we can maybe finger pick, and of course various ideas for the solos. The record's got plenty, but I like a lot of the live stuff. I like a lot of Brian's, kind of open E stuff up and in the key V down there. We'll all that kind of like elasticy, juicy stuff. So some great live version stuff for us to check out. So let's see. So into the bridge there, right? We're losing light, so I'll leave it there. And take care, folks, and I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully tomorrow, and wishing you, your loved ones, everybody, a wonderful and happy Christmas. So cheers, take care, see you soon.